she's so fine. Hell of a blows my mind. Hell of a lights my day.
What's good, guys? Today is Friday, June the 4th, 2021. This is going to be an update video on the Samuel Olson case coming out of Harris County, Texas. I want to thank my good friend D. Walsh for sending me tidbits about this case so that now I can lay it all out for you guys and we can move forward with this. Now, in order to get this all the way together, we have to take this case back to April of 2019. Sarah Olson and Dalton Olson are the parents of Samuel Olson. And in April of 2019, the couple, who were married, separated and entered into a custody order. Dalton had concerns over Samuel's well-being. He was very proactive in fighting for custody. But by the end of this entire process, and after 2 years of attempting to negotiate Samuel Olson's custody, Dalton was extremely confused in regards to custody. And Sarah obviously was too, because she should have had way more access than she did to Samuel. Dalton Olson filed another order of custody and actually hired an attorney in January of 2020. Days later, Sarah Olson went ahead and filed for divorce. Now, because of all this court back and forth stuff, Dalton was under the impression that the orders had been modified to make him the sole custodial parent. Therefore, Sarah had little to no access to Samuel starting in January of 2020. That order had never been in place. It was never actually filed or put in place. So obviously, the relationship between Sarah Olson and her son Sam became really rocky, to say the least. And this is per his new attorney, Dalton's new attorney he just hired. He says that him or Dalton were not trying to throw Sarah Olson under the bus, that they were simply a young couple that could not get along. And because of this history between Sarah Olson and Dalton Olson and all of this back and forth in the courts and the custody and this and that, Dalton's family believed everything that Theresa Balboa said, her account of events where Sarah Olson came to the house with the police. And that's what made her story believable, is because that's kind of been the situation that's been going on. So Theresa Balboa took advantage of that situation, unfortunately. Now, we have to fast forward this to November of 2020, so last November. On November the 29th of 2020, which was the Sunday following Thanksgiving, Theresa Balboa and Dalton Olson got into a physical altercation where Theresa Balboa put her hands around Dalton Olson's neck and choked him. She was arrested and charged with assault on a family member and impeding breathing on November the 29th, 2020. And the following day, which would have been a Monday, because you couldn't have seen the judge on a Sunday, the following day on Monday, they let her out on a $5,000 bond, but they issued a protective order that prohibited Theresa Balboa from directly communicating with Dalton Olson. Obviously, they didn't care about that, weren't concerned about that, because they didn't follow it. It's also important to note that Dalton Olson says that Samuel Olson was not there to witness the event between Theresa Balboa and himself. I don't know how true that is, but that's his story. Regardless, Theresa Balboa more or less kept Samuel Olson. And Dalton addressed that saying, he actually called it her watching him, because he worked long hours in construction and he didn't have a vehicle. And this was part of their routine. He said they were very strict with their routine, and this was just part of their routine. She had Samuel. Now we're going to fast forward to April the 30th of 2020, which was a Friday. That, according to school records, was the last day Samuel Olson was in school. On May the 2nd, which would have been the Monday following the weekend, Samuel Olson's grandparents say Samuel was sick, so Theresa Balboa took Samuel home. Theresa Balboa lived in an apartment complex with a roommate. The roommate says on May the 10th, when he came home, he saw Samuel Olson dead in their apartment on the bed in Webster. His body was covered in bruises, and him and Theresa Balboa, wrapped Samuel Olson's corpse in plastic sheets and put him in the bathtub. Now, when I think of plastic sheets, I have an older home. We put plastic up around the windows sometimes when it's super, super cold so that no air can flow in and out of these older windows, keeping the heat in the house essentially. Also, when I paint, I don't throw it on a painter's cloth. I will use plastic sheeting, which you can buy by the roll at Walmart. That's what I think of when they say plastic sheeting. I could be very wrong about that. Now, it's important to note this timeline. So that was on May the 10th. On May the 13th, the same roommate says him and Theresa Balboa, took Samuel's body to the storage unit in Webster. Then 2 weeks later, on May the 27th, Dalton reported his son, Samuel Olson, missing to the Houston Police Department. And here's where it gets sketchy for me. If the roommate said he came home on yes, I'm flipping, I have notes. And see, I got notes. If the roommate says Samuel was dead on May the 10th, how could Dalton Olson on May the 21st have spoke to Samuel on the phone? That's throwing a huge flapping red flag for me. Who did Dalton speak to? Did he speak to anyone? Is that a BS story that he spoke to Dalton on the phone on May the 21st? If he spoke to someone that he thought was Dalton, who was it? It's just throwing a big red flag for me. I guess now is as good a time as any to say that Dalton denies involvement. Of course, we knew that. But his new attorney, said that Dalton believed Theresa Balboa's account leading up to the disappearance of Samuel days later. He then realized something was off. And this is where it got sketchy for him. They went to pass out flyers about Samuel Olson. When they got to the designation where they were going to start passing out these flyers, Dalton Olson says that he went one way and Theresa Balboa went the other way. And they were supposed to meet back up at a certain time. Theresa Balboa was nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. And that's when Dalton Olson started thinking, something's not right here. It's also important to note that because of this incident in November of 2020, Theresa Balboa was out on bond. Now, the roommate that she was living with has charges now pending for them because of their involvement in all of this. As most of you know, the body was found at the Best Western, and surveillance video proved that her claim that Sarah Olson took the child on May the 27th was absolutely false. That's when the police started saying something's not right here. Now, the body that was found at the motel is believed to be that of Samuel Olson. The roommate, who has been identified as Benjamin Rivera, is the one that came home and saw Samuel Olson on the bed with the bruising. Put the body in the bathtub with Balboa's help, of course. 2 to 3 days later, on May the 13th, he bought the duct tape and a plastic tote at Walmart, wrapped this child in a plastic sheet, and put him inside the tote. It just burns my ass. They then, Benjamin Rivera and Theresa Balboa, drove the tote to a storage unit in Webster. Now, Theresa Balboa met up with another man, a separate person, in Cleveland, Texas. He took her to the storage unit in Webster. And he says they picked up a container that had a foul odor. He drove the tote and Theresa Balboa to the Best Western in Jasper. He checked her into a room using his name. And he removed the container from the truck at 6 a.m. on Tuesday, June the 1st. He called into Crime Stoppers and let them know that Samuel was with her in a container. 5 minutes later, the police arrived. They knocked on the door, but Theresa Balboa didn't answer it. So they went to the manager, who let them in using his key, his or her key, and they found Theresa Balboa in the bathroom. Now, this is all at the Best Western Inn of Jasper, Texas. Surveillance video shows that at 3:30 a.m., a pickup did pull up with a tote in the back. The man did go in and check in, and they went to room 106. Him and Theresa Balboa. They came out around 6 a.m. So they were in there for 2.5 hours with the tote still outside. He came out at 6 a.m. and he moved the tote into the room by dragging it. And after that was done, he drove off. He told the Texas Rangers, this second person that checked her into the Best Western, that he had picked up Balboa in Cleveland, Texas, drove her to Webster and picked up the tote, and then drove her to Jasper. Now, on Tuesday, June the 2nd, at 5:34 p.m., they asked Theresa Balboa, where was Samuel? Where's Samuel? Balboa told the sergeant from the Jasper Police Department that the complainant was, quote, inside the box, end quote. Now, the second driver did speak to the investigators, saying that he did drive the storage unit and to Jasper with Balboa. It was after he moved the tote from the bed of the truck to the room that he said he smelled a foul odor. But my thing is this: if you moved her tote from the storage unit to your truck, and this is a man dragging a tote, so we know Theresa Balboa did not lift that tote and put it into the bed of that truck. You had to have smelt it then. You had to have. Why didn't you say something then? Why did you go to the hotel room, sit in there with her for 2.5 hours doing God knows what, then come out and get the tote, drag it, and then call the police? Like, why didn't you report it right then when you smelled it? And you know you smelled it if you moved that tote. It being the corpse. I don't want to be disrespectful at all, but it just pisses me off. Now, to catch everybody up, Theresa Balboa was arraigned today without bond for tampering, fabricating physical evidence, which is a felony. Sadly, Samuel Olson never made it to age 6. That just really pisses me off too. Samuel Olson, or who we believe to be Samuel Olson, is now at the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences, where an autopsy is going to be done. Now, it is important to note that Theresa Balboa did call the man that actually ended up calling Crime Stoppers. She called him on May the 31st, asking for help after she had gotten into an altercation. And he met her at the Walmart parking lot in Cleveland, and he drove her to the storage unit from there, picked up the container, and checked her into the hotel. Samuel Olson's body, or who we assume is Samuel Olson, arrived at the Institute of Forensic Sciences Thursday afternoon. And also, the Department of Family and Protective Services said they could give no confirmation of who had custody, but says they were working with the police. They're not allowed by law to speak about it. So I wanted to bring this update regarding this case. I have a slew of notes. I'm all over this. I just don't understand I don't understand how Dalton spoke to Samuel on the phone on May the 21st. If someone can explain that to me, I will be more than happy to listen to you. But that's throwing a I'm involved vibe to me. So, if you have some light you can shed on that issue, I'd be glad to listen, because I can't think of any way that he could have spoken to Samuel Olson on the 21st when he was deceased. So, and then my other thing is, how did the tipster not notice the smell of the corpse in that tote on the first trip to the storage unit? I guess it's just the point for me. Like, you know, if I had been in that situation, I would have been wanting to get the hell away from her as fast as possible. But instead, you went in the room with her for 2.5 hours and then came back and got the tote. And that's when you allege you smelled something that smelled foul. And I smell foul, because that just doesn't smell right to me. So I'm going to continue to stay on this case. Theresa Balboa is the girlfriend from hell, from the fiery pits of hell, for what she has done to this child. Not only did she throw the police under the bus, but she used the situation between Sarah Olson and Dalton Olson in a way that just made Sarah Olson look terrible. She threw her all the way under the bus. For no reason, just for no damn reason other than to try to cover your tracks. And that disgusts me. And then acted like the police came with her, when you know there's going to be a report somewhere about that. Somebody's going to know something. Luckily, Sarah Olson could prove where she was, and that's when the whole damn case fell apart. I think that guy's name is Officer Satterwhite. That's when the case fell apart for him. He didn't believe her story from jump, and thank God he didn't. He did probe, and that's good. But again, I want to say this about Harris County, Texas. What in the Sam hell is going on there? There is so much stuff going on in that area that it is very scary. I'm going to end the video on that note, and any other updates I have, I will bring it to you. But I also want to say one more thing, and I'm done. YouTube has decided to turn off comments on videos. Luckily, my subscriber, Samantha or Sam, has been helping me go through and find the videos that have the comments turned off, because I don't do that. I've done that one time in a video regarding Kanika Jenkins, and it was very intentional on my part. However, this is a YouTube thing, and it's on several of my videos. So just so you know, I don't turn comments off. If I can put something out into the public, I can defend it, and I can also discuss it with you. So that's not me at all doing that. I just wanted to make that known. So I'm going to end the video on that note. But thanks for watching, guys.